Playboy bunny Precious Muir just spoke out about Diddy's connection to Playboy and how he would drug women and rape them at freak-offs. Exclusive new details about Diddy's inner circle and his ring of sexual predators are finally being exposed, and stories of how Diddy would manipulate and abuse minors are going to shock you. Stay with us as we pull back the curtain and take a look at some of Hollywood's darkest secrets, exploring the allegation that Precious Muir is being targeted after exposing Diddy's secrets.
There is no way that you are in the phases further down the line after the main event and you're not participating in any way. And that is when the NDAs come out. So if you are now further down the line, phase 2, 3, 4 parts of the party, you have definitely signed an NDA. Your phone is no longer with you. And I'm certain that you somehow participating in some way. There is no way, it's not a viewing party. You can't be in a room when everyone else is doing their thing and you're just observing on the sideline. There is no way. So anyone that says to me that they were part of the freak-off section of the party and not just at the main Hamptons house or main, vodka house party, there is no way that you would be part of that and not participating.
British model and Hugh Hefner's personal Playboy bunny, Precious Muir, was friends with Diddy and attended Diddy's freak-off parties. From threesomes and orgies in the open, to witnessing parents actually bringing their own children to Diddy's freak-off parties, the secrets that Muir is exposing are things no one has even talked about before. Allegedly, Diddy was bringing his own children for other celebrities to abuse, and both Justin Bieber and Usher were drugged so they could be violated.
Because the fact that you have children in attendance, now I said I saw children at Hamptons parties because I did. I saw them with maybe who they are with, but people brought their children to parties of this nature. At least with Playboy, he kept those parties separate. That is the only significant difference that I could really see and say, hey, at least Playboy didn't allow children to come into an adult space. I think parents that are involved in this situation must be held accountable.
Well, you've talked about this specifically with Justin Bieber. You've been pretty critical of his parents. Like how on earth did his mom let this happen?
Every single artist that was allegedly assaulted in some way, manipulated, violated, where were the parents? Where were these parents? I don't understand that somebody so young doesn't have somebody on their side around them. If you're an artist and you're going to a hotel room and you're, 10, 15, 16, whatever the ages that they've come out and said allegedly happened to these young people, where the hell was their parents? Why would you send your child to a hotel room by themselves?
New details show that Diddy arranged his party in phases, and everyone who attended these parties was a participant. They knew what happened at these parties, and even before minors were brought in, the main event that everyone attended had orgies and threesomes happening out in the open. Allegedly, you could see and hear people having sex out in the pool, in the living room, and drugs were openly being used. These allegations, when combined with the fact that both Obama and Trump have confessed to being at Diddy's parties, paints a shocking picture of just how powerful Hollywood's sexual abuse ring is.
I could see the progression of the party and where it was going. I was fully aware of where it was going. All day everyone's drinking, all day everyone's taking drugs, whoever participates in drugs. Everyone's all over each other by then, kissing, touching, groping. Girls are half naked, fully naked in the pool, jumping and God knows, there's loads of things that I saw, and kissing and groping and touching and fondling, and I heard sex in the bathrooms. Walking past bedrooms, I heard sex going on as well. People do drugs in the bathrooms, come out. I've seen residue of whatever they've just left behind with whatever the thing that they was using to sniff the substance. Once you've been there all day, where do you think it's going to go? a young lady from London, England, comes over and goes to her first party in the Hamptons in 2007, and she figures it out within the few hours that she's there what it's about. So you tell me if they know about it.
You were there, a newbie, and you immediately knew, oh, not only know it's, but I know where this is going to head.
After I've been drugged at the vodka party, I started to think there's not it's not quite what it seems.
Right, but you would know, then you're really looking at it closely.
Figure it out, and was like, I mean, you can't say that you don't know anything. You have to have heard a few things, you must have witnessed a few things, and you saw some stuff. This is why it also prompted me to speak up, because at the end of the day, some people, not hardly anyone was speaking up, but the handful that did, were coming out and saying, it was fine, it was a normal setting, it was just a party, oh, sex is sex, and that's just how Hollywood is. I'm just like, what kind of party, what are you talking about? Like, this is not normal behavior.
Allegedly, Diddy coerced and threatened people that he thought would speak up against what was happening. Young talent and minors were told that if they didn't say yes to whatever Diddy asked them to do, he would destroy their career or physically hurt them. The people around Diddy knew that he was violent and was abusing his own children and girlfriend, so they were all scared of what he might do. Diddy pressured people and drugged them so they couldn't resist.
But you do fear him because you're like, you don't know what his next move is going to be. You don't know what he's going to respond or what he's going to say. And he is very, very dominant. Like, he wants to control the situation. He wants to control his inner circle. He wants to make everyone have a good time and enjoy his parties. And so, it is scary because you think, this person or possibly his social network or the people he's around could make or break your career. If you say the wrong thing or you complain or I don't know, there's an element where you're just, I guess, manipulated in a way to make you feel like, oh, you have to please everyone around you. You can't say anything wrong. You don't want to say a bad thing, or when they're constantly asking, would you like to do drugs? And you're like, well, I don't do drugs. And they're like, well, why don't you do drugs? And so it's a form of manipulation, and you are afraid as a new talent because you don't want to piss them off. There's so many elements to it. So you are scared. There is an element of fear, and I never spoke up, during that period of time because I feared for my life. Like, I was alone in New York. I had no family there. If I said the wrong thing, what could happen to me? I'm in a foreign country. It does take a group of people to come together and use their voice, but then others to feel comfortable to say the right thing as well. It does take that. I think the courage comes from unity and people saying, hey, this happened to me. And so I'm like, wow, this happened to me. Let's talk about it.
More and more people are speaking out about what they saw at Diddy's parties. And it looks like Diddy and the people who were complicit in his crimes are finally going to go to jail. CCTV footage that Diddy recorded of his freak-off parties is slowly coming to light, and allegedly 8 tapes that were obtained directly from an associate of Diddy's ex-wife, Kim Porter, are now in FBI custody. Courtney Burgess, a man with close ties to Kim Porter, was subpoenaed by the FBI to appear in a federal case where he testified against Diddy.
And those statements include descriptions of what the witness says he saw on those tapes. So I asked him about that, and he answered what he could, given the limitations imposed on him after testifying before the grand jury. Out of those 8 videos, 8 celebrities, 6 men and 2 women, how many of those 8 celebrities were close to being underage or potentially underage?
2 males.
2 males. And of those 8 celebrities, how many of them were intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
This is going to be all speculation. I just want to preface it by he wouldn't know if they were. Right.
Sure.
Appear to be.
Let me rephrase it.
Based on, yes.
Understand. Out of the 8 celebrities who were recorded having intimate relations with Sean Combs, how many of them appear to be either inebriated or intoxicated or under the influence?
All of them. All of them.
Out of those 8, how many appear to be potentially victimized? How many might have been victimizing?
I think all, to be honest, all.
Were victims
They
or
victims.
were perpetrating?
Victims.
They were all 8 were victimized,
Yeah,
meaning
victim.
this was happening to them and they were inebriated.
Right. Not knowing, I guess, how much proof it was in it, what they was doing.
And of those 8, how many seemed to be potentially minors?
2 to 3, possibly 3.
With more footage coming out and A-list celebrities gearing up to testify against Diddy, arrests have already started. Mike Jeffries, ex-CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch, was just arrested in connection to an international sex trafficking ring that took advantage of young models like Precious Muir. Allegedly, male models would be called under the guise of an audition and then abused and raped after being drugged and injected with erection-inducing medication.
The former boss of the fashion giant Abercrombie & Fitch and his British partner have been arrested on charges of running a prostitution and international sex trafficking business following a 2-year-long BBC investigation. The FBI began looking into the claims that Mike Jeffries and his partner Matthew Smith sexually exploited and abused men at events they hosted in their New York residences and hotels around the world. Lawyers for both men and a third man who's been arrested have previously denied any wrongdoing. They'll appear in court on Friday. Rihanna Croxford broke the story that led to the FBI's initial investigation. Here's her report.
Mike Jeffries, the mogul behind a global fashion brand. His vision made billions for Abercrombie & Fitch. He's now facing criminal charges.
To anyone who thinks they can exploit and coerce others by using the so-called casting couch system, this case should serve as a warning. Prepare to trade that couch for a bed in federal prison.
Evidence gathered by the BBC found there was a highly organised operation involving this middleman, James Jacobson, now also arrested. In the past few months, I've spoken with more men who attended these events, 20 in total. Some told me they were tricked and abused, others that they were injected with drugs. We will respond in detail to the allegations after the indictment is unsealed and when appropriate, but plan to do so in the courthouse, not the media. Tonight, Mike Jeffries was released on bail. If convicted, he and the others accused could face life in prison. Rihanna Croxford, BBC News.
Diddy, R. Kelly, Danny Masterson, Jeffrey Epstein, and Harvey Weinstein. All these abusers were protected and facilitated for years by the industry. Minors would speak out and actually name everyone that had abused them, but only the minors would be blacklisted. This is why Justin and Usher were never able to file a case against Diddy. Justin realized that the abuse would never stop, even if he tried to speak up, so he just walked away, while Usher ended up getting abused for years.
And someone who's spoken out about this and is painfully aware is former child star Corey Feldman.
You freeze, you're in shock. I mean, children aren't supposed to handle that sort of stuff. I can tell you that the #1 problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh yeah. I was surrounded by them.
For years now, as evidenced on Nightline in 2011, Corey Feldman has been claiming that he and his good friend, the late Corey Haim, were victims of molestation when they were young actors. Last year, he opened up to our Alex Hudgens.
Why didn't
Kids
you
are
come forward
scared.
Then?
You know, kids don't think I'm gonna go. First of all, for me, the person that was doing it to me the most, well, I mean, I could say that the 2 people that did it to me were both close friends of mine, or so I thought.
Feldman claims Haim endured more than him. In his book Choreography, he alleges that Haim was raped on the set of the 1986 film Lucas. The following year, 1987, their film The Lost Boys came out.
It was when we were both on the set of Lost Boys that, things were happening to both of us, not from anyone on the set, might I clear that up, but, outside elements.
How did people not know when these are two, or did they know and they just weren't doing anything about it?
I mean, I know he told a lot of people. That's the thing that's so upsetting to me. It's not like it's just me that knows this story.
Other people know.
A lot of people know.
They're still working, they're still out there, and they're some of the richest, most powerful people in this business.
Back in 2013, on The View, Feldman was insistent that perpetrators are still out there, but says he won't name names due to statute of limitation laws in California. He also has another reason that echoes something we've heard regarding Harvey Weinstein.
From what I've seen, every time somebody tries to bring up a public name and they have a lot of money and power and a publicity machine behind them, the person who does the accusing is the one that ends up looking bad.
They would pull away the better looking younger kids and keep them for their own after party, and it would turn into a pool party. And then they'd have their rules. Oh, there's no swimsuits on in the pool.
With Diddy finally behind bars and unable to hurt victims or silence them, more and more victims are getting the courage to come forward. Among them is Thalia Graves, who filed a federal lawsuit on September 24th, 2024, against Sean Diddy Combs and his former bodyguard, Joseph Sherman. Graves alleges that in 2001, at Bad Boy Records studio in New York City, she was drugged and sexually assaulted by the two men. According to the lawsuit, Diddy and Sherman gave her a drink that caused her to lose consciousness. When she regained consciousness, her hands had been tied, and both men assaulted her.
The latest woman to speak out against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs is from Harris County.
Yeah, our Rekha Mudaraj is here with more on the lawsuit that was filed yesterday. Rekha?
Len and Mia, these are the latest accusations against Sean Combs, and it comes about a week after Combs was indicted on federal charges alleging he used his business empire as a criminal enterprise. Now, yesterday, high-powered attorney Gloria Allred appeared with her client. This is Thalia Graves, a Harris County resident who filed a lawsuit against Combs in New York. We are using her name because she has gone public with her claims. Now, in the lawsuit, Graves alleges back in 2001, when she was 25 years old, Combs and his head of security lured her into a meeting at a New York City recording studio where they gave her a drink that caused her to briefly lose consciousness. When she woke up, Graves says she was bound and restrained and was violently raped by Combs. The lawsuit filed Tuesday also claims the alleged assault was recorded and that the video was shown to multiple other men. Graves says she also faced multiple threats that made her stay silent for decades.
The violation I have experienced during the assault has had lasting effects on my body, causing ongoing health problems and complications. The combination of physical and emotional pain has created a cycle of suffering from which it is so hard to break free. I want to continue on this journey towards recovery and healing. I'm glad that he is locked up, but that's a temporary feeling of relief.
54-year-old Combs is in jail facing federal charges including sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He was denied bail twice after pleading not guilty.
Minors who were abused by Diddy and eventually turned into A-list celebrities themselves are coming after Diddy too. Ariel Mitchell Kidd is allegedly representing someone that Diddy abused as a minor and even recorded as he violated them. This celebrity even has a tape of Diddy forcing himself on them, and they are prepared to come forward with a lawsuit. According to reports, Diddy is doing all he can to keep this quiet and has even tried to threaten the celebrity to stay silent.
Is your client fearful if Diddy does get out?
As you know, I represent other clients, actual victims who have sued Mr. Combs, Diddy, in civil court, and all of them are very apprehensive about their safety if he were to be granted bond. I am confident in the court. I am sure that the court will remain with their previous decision of no bond. I feel like the judge only gave this, let me think about it, just to not make it as obvious. But I have all the confidence in the world in the federal court in the state of New York that they will remain keeping Diddy under no bond, and that all of the victims in this case will be able to proceed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I mean, you don't just represent this man, you represent other alleged victims too and people involved. Have there been any threats made against any of your clients?
There have been threats from people on the internet, but not from, at least what we don't know, from Diddy to be directly. So my clients have, Mr. Burgess has received several death threats. My client, Mrs. Parham, has been receiving threats, but we don't know if they're just regular people from the internet or if they're actually people who were sent by Diddy.
Do you have any idea where the threats are coming from? I mean, have you done any investigation?
Well, most of the investigation leads us to a lot of burner accounts on Instagram, and we're trying to now sift through possibly working with law enforcement to try to get subpoenas to determine the IP addresses of where those threats were emanating.
So, okay, interesting. We know that the cease and desist letter has now come. Has there been any other pressure of any kind that you or your clients have felt to stop talking?
In general, I feel that the gag order, when we talk about that, Mark Agnifilio wrote about me specifically, and also all of the other plaintiffs in the civil lawsuits to try to have all of us gagged. There's pressure every day that us continuing to talk about this is putting not only our lives in jeopardy, but could be potentially used against us in a gag order.
TMZ executive producer Harvey Levine has interviewed people in Diddy's inner circle, namely Tanea Wallace, Diddy's ex-party planner, and he has alleged that he and the team at TMZ have viewed security footage of Diddy abusing minors. According to both Tanea and Harvey, Diddy would drug minors and force them to engage in sexual acts. All the adults attending Diddy's freak-off parties knew what was happening, and they were there so they could violate the minors.
And I want to start with Tanea Wallace, who claims she's been at a freak-off and said she saw children, and it was hard for her to say it.
It was very hard for her to say it, Ashley. So what she said was that she was flown out from LA to Miami by the Saudi prince, and they ended up eventually on Star Island at one of Diddy's parties. She says, you know, among many other things, I mean, she goes into detail. This, she says, happened in 2018. She says that she walked into the house and there was a cluster of adults around what she described as little people. And they were dressed up as Japanese Barbies. I forgot the name. It's Harak something. You can help me out here. It's a certain type of Barbie. Anyway.
I know the name, but I've forgotten it. But go ahead.
So she explained that that they were just clustered around these little people, and I kept pushing her, and she eventually said, "Look, they are little people who should not be at an adult party." And I pushed her, and it was apparent what she was saying is they were minors. Now, she didn't see anything specific that was going on with them other than that adults were kind of huddled around them. But she told just a wild story about what was going on at the house, even at 7 in the morning, that this thing apparently raged all night long.
You know, it's amazing. TMZ always gets such great scoops, and this one might be one of your best as well. You got a hold of one of the freak-off tapes. Your producers have seen it. The description is, and I'll quote, "It's porn directed by Diddy himself." And a male sex worker really sort of walks through what happened in the experiences that he had. They didn't sound illegal, but they sure seem to comport with a lot of the other stories that have been told.
Yeah, this was a threesome. What you would ask me about earlier about Tanea Wallace, she said there were more than 100 people at that party, including at least 4 celebrities. But this, what you're talking about now, was a threesome, and that's something that the U.S. attorney even referenced, and his lawyer in an earlier documentary we did. He was describing threesomes. He says it was all consensual. So yes, what we're told is that this male sex worker was flown out to various locations over a couple of years: Miami, New York, Los Angeles, and one other. And they would meet in hotel rooms, and Diddy would often watch with this woman who was associated with Diddy. So that seems to be what the feds are looking at right now in terms of alleged sex trafficking, if they are transporting somebody and perhaps paying them to cross state lines. That could end up being part of sex trafficking. Now, we know,
in addition to the civil and criminal lawsuits filed against Diddy by the U.S. attorney, more than 200 victims have filed with Houston-based attorney Tony Busby to represent them. These victims, who were allegedly minors at the time of the abuse, have medical records and police reports that corroborate and verify their claims. Private investigators and ex-FBI officials have also verified the abuse and helped Busby file more than 25 lawsuits. The best part of all this is that Busby has said that he would name everyone that helped Diddy.
Another instance, another minor, told allegedly by Sean Combs that he would make him a star, but he needed to visit with him in private about it, away from his parents. Once they were in a private area, allegedly Mr. Combs made the victim perform oral sex upon him. Another incident, an individual 15 years old at the time, flown to New York City to attend a party, was drugged and then taken into a private room, allegedly in the presence of Mr. Combs, where this female individual, minor, was raped, and then other individuals took turns raping her. Another individual, 26 at the time of the occurrence, was picked up allegedly by Mr. Combs and several other people in a black SUV from the airport, was given one drink in the SUV, and then literally woke up the next day not knowing what had happened, but with pain and damage to both her vagina and her anus, where she then went to the hospital. She was missing her underwear and her shoes. Another instance, an individual, this time not a minor, attended a group dinner, allegedly with Sean Combs in Miami. She wasn't drinking because she was pregnant, but whatever she drank at the table, apparently, at least according to her, was laced with something. She blacked out, and she woke up in the same bed, again allegedly, with Mr. Combs in his mansion in Miami. Her vagina and her anus were torn and sore.
With so many victims and videotapes against Diddy, it's hard to imagine why Diddy hasn't been arrested yet. And that's because this case is bigger than Diddy. Diddy was friends with some incredibly powerful people, including the mayor of New York, who even handed Diddy the key to the city just 1 month before his arrest. How is it possible for the mayor of New York to not know about an ongoing investigation? Is it really a coincidence, or is there more to the story than meets the eye?
That the judge was going to allow him to be bonded out on the first get-go. Now, if he comes up with some more hearings, he might be released. But based on the evidence, they've been following him, bro. They've been tapping his phone, been having people watch him. You understand? He been coming back and forth from New York, and he'll usually be coming back to New York. And somebody was telling me that, yo, listen here, yo, he trying to get witnesses. Remember when they released that first thing of Cassie, and I said that Diddy was trying to contact people for character witnesses, people for who he had problems with before, whatever like that, and trying to talk to them in the whole 9 yards. That's when they dropped that thing with Cassie, the Homeland Security had some agency or whatever like that that deals with that, drop that thing on Cassie to show everybody, oh, y'all want to help him? Y'all, this is what y'all want to help? This is who y'all want to, say that he ain't never did nothing. This is what you want to put your brand on? And everybody started backing up from him. Everybody was talking about, yo, man, Cassie was a gold digger. Cassie was this, that, and the third. She loved it in the whole 9 yards. And then when they seen that, all his friends or so-called friends, went away. So him not having a bond is not surprising.
Yeah, and he offered them $50 million, and they still denied his bond.
He should have waited to see what they was going to offer. Because if he got $50 million to get him.
Precious Muir's courageous revelations have brought new attention to the abuse and exploitation that has been covered up for decades. But as more evidence emerges and the powerful connections that once shielded these predators begin to crumble, one thing is clear: justice is finally catching up, and this is only the beginning.